I think you're focused.
Yeah.
I think my own problem in racing, I would lose focus. And then it wasn't until I spoke to a guy that wins all the time, Max Dumsney.
Yep.
I said, Max, why are you so good? 6-time Aussie champion. Like he just looked at me cold and went 110%. I'm not saying this to you, but he just stared at me in every second of in that race. It's 110%. He never relaxes.
Yeah, well, I'm the same as you, though, when it comes to school,
Who needs it?
It's a gold coast.
In the worlds before Monkey, primal chaos reigned.
Only a racer knows the feeling. G'day, viewers. This podcast was brought to you by Koala Calm with a chill-out drink. Sit back, relax. Hey, on today's show, I bring you Broc Pearson, 15 years old, travelled the world. He's currently third in the Asia Dream Cup, which is a 250cc bike race all through Japan, Indonesia, India, Malaysia, everywhere. Racing against, I think it's 25 of the best. And he's up the front. He's a Gold Coaster, and he's here today. His sweet mum brought him in. I met him first through his dad, Ian, at City to Surf Locksmiths. So I'm stoked I got the chance to meet a guy that is definitely going to turn the racing world upside down. You don't know what it's like to meet racers who are winning. They are cold characters, There's a difference between someone who is just, say, working down at the chicken shop and has a completely different life compared to a guy who's frustrated that the last race wasn't a win and is just constantly focused on winning. They're pretty special, almost strange people. So, but they're the people you need to be around, no matter how awkward and difficult they may be. Find yourself some champions in your own life. Anyway, it's 6:30. It's 6:30 on Thursday night, 8th of September. Thank you, Broc Pearson, for coming in. Are you there, Broc Pearson? Broc Pearson, how are you, champion?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Great, mate. Feeling good?
Yeah, good.
Where were you in the last month?
About 2.5 weeks ago, I was in Indonesia. I was racing at the 4th round of the Asia Road Racing Championship. That featured in Indonesia at the Central Circuit.
In Jakarta?
Yeah, I was just outside of Jakarta. Yeah. It's about half an hour, 45 minutes away from Jakarta at Central.
Wow. Central?
Yeah.
Have you been there before?
Yeah, we actually did race there last year. That was on the calendar last year as well. But yeah, we went there again this year. It's not actually that big of a city. It's quite small, not many people in there. But yeah, there's enough there for a track, so it's quite good.
Right. Is it a good track?
The layout of the track, yeah, is really good. There's straights, there's tight corners, fast corners. There's a bit of everything, which is good. But unfortunately, track's been there for a fair few years. It hasn't actually been resurfaced in a while. So what they do is tend to lend a couple, extra concrete slabs down here and there, which has made the track really patchy, bumpy, and just thousands of different surfaces, which actually makes it really, really slippery.
Really slippery.
Yeah.
So you've got bitumen and then concrete patches.
Yeah, they got a bit of everything.
Oh, wow. Does it get all marbly?
Yep. There's marbles in one corner where all the inside of the concrete and bitumen's just ripped up, and then in the other corners where it's really smooth. So, it's really hard to keep your lines and everything basically consistent, which is the hardest thing.
Classic. So how old are you?
I'm 15 now, and I'm turning 16 in December, so not too far away before I get to step up to senior.
And you're about 7 foot tall?
Yeah, unfortunately.
How tall are you? You're taller than me.
I think I'm just on 6 foot now. So
wow. Okay, here's one for you. Clearly, I've looked you up, right? 8-time Australian track champion.
Yep.
What's that for? A flat track, is it?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep, flat track.
How cool's that?
Yeah, it's good. That was probably one of my highlights, you know. Me and Dad did that basically all ourselves. Me, Mum, my sister, Dad. You know, we never really got that much backing through dirt track. You know, it was quite hard going through dirt track. Dirt track's quite a tough sport in the phase that a lot of people there are quite, you know, it's not all that fun, to be honest. Everyone there's quite serious, and if you're winning, you're most likely to have a few people that don't like you. You know how it works. So we went through the whole dirt track career until I was about 13, 14, all by myself, just me and my family. We travelled around. We did it the right way. Dad knew how to do the engines all by himself, so we did it as a family, and it turned out great. You know, after winning 8 Australian titles, it was really good. And at that stage, you know, there's not much sponsorship for dirt track. There's a lot in motocross, speedway, road racing, but unfortunately there's not much in flat track. So we had to make a change and do the right thing for hopefully my future, which was the road racing, and that turned out to be a really good decision.
Yeah, I used to race sprint cars.
Yep.
For a bunch of years. You know, all the World Series, all the Australian circuit.
Yeah.
People don't understand when they go, oh yeah, you know, it's all, what costs a lot is where you have to sleep.
Yeah,
all that
that's
accommodation and all that. The entries are one thing, and tyres, and obviously that is a massive deal. But when you add on, oh man, we've got to sleep somewhere and we've got to check in here and this and that, and take time off work to actually go to tracks.
Yeah,
that's where it really sorts everyone out, right?
Yeah, that was the hardest thing for Dad, as he's like a one-man business. Every time he took off a couple of days at work, when he'd come back, it took a few days to get going again, and you know, it was quite hard doing that. But yeah, like you said, you go to pay for one thing and that's not too bad. But then when you go and pay for the 10 to 15 other things and it all adds up, you're like, oh, okay.
Right. In sprint cars, if you win something, you get money back. It's different to, say, road racing, where it's, you know, full of sponsorship. But in sprint cars, it's kind of a cool idea where you're racing for $5,000, you know?
Yeah.
So you can pay the bills if you win, you know, 5 to 10 or whatever. So what's it like what do you call it if you're racing dirt track and you've won 8 titles? Yeah, that's a lot of years. When did you win your first one then?
I started dirt track when I was about 4, and I would have won my first one in 2007 when I was on Division 2s. That was when that's the first class which gets competitive. You know, in 50 Division 1s, they all, even if you go to Australian title, they let you off one by one. It's all just go and ride. Yeah. Division 2s where they start doing the racing competitive type, which was when I won my first couple of Australian titles.
KDMs and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yep. And that was where it all started. I won a couple on them. Then I jumped on 65, won a couple on them. And this is all Australian titles we're talking. I never even counted how many state titles there was that we did. We were always travelling for it, but it was really good. But like you said, that's the hardest thing about it. We weren't racing for money. We were racing for exposure, to be honest. You know, Broc Pearson wins this or wins that. That's what we were going for, to hopefully, you know, pick something up in the long run. But dirt track just never really was working for anyone at the time.
Right, yeah. Well, it's like sprint cars. Like the people who love the sport stay in it, but it's really hard to get people to go there and get dust all over them.
Yeah.
You know, like you're trying to get, hey, boss, you got a lot of money. Come out and watch my boy race. He's the best.
Yeah, it was.
Give us $10,000 and go, where can I put the sticker?
Yeah, that's
sort of
it.
thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was when, like, you know, dirt track, and as people call them, dirty old dirt trackers. You know, it's a dirty scene. It's just all gravel, dust everywhere, and that was sort of like growing up in that was all cool and stuff. But I remember when I first went over to Malaysia. Actually, I went over with Anthony West. I was doing an Asia Talent Cup tryout there when I was 14. That was my first year of road racing. I threw myself into a bit of a deep end and sort of just went a bit too early, but I got to experience the Motogp with Anthony West, and you know, that's not something that you'd call a dirty old motorbike scene. Everything over there is just amazing. You know, from the pits to the food to the tracks, the grass, everything's just pitch perfect in the road racing scene, and that was when I sort of knew, yeah, this is where I want to be.
Great. It's good to see that. I'm not going to say you're lucky. You're not lucky at all. You know, you make your own luck, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to, I think I said this to your dad, Ian, right, when I met him. To be able to travel the world, right now you're in the Asia Dream Cup. We'll get to that in a minute. But to be able to, you know, you've got mates, right? And I've got mates. They've never left their suburb. So they tend to be stuck in this thing, and they're often a bit miserable, you know, maybe even racist, right?
Yep.
But then you've got your other friends who travel a lot, and they've seen some things. They've seen some wow, and it gives them hope. And they've seen world champions walk past, and they go, wow, you're just like me. I want to be that. It's a huge thing.
Yeah, that is a good scene about it. And, you know, the people like that, that's really good because, you know, it sort of brings promotion to the sport and sort of rises the people up.
Yeah. Wow. So how many times have you been overseas then? That's a weird question to ask you, I know, but...
Overseas now I think would have to be 14, 15, I'd say now, yeah. Wow. So it's been a fair different countries. Yeah, we've been to the same country a couple times, twice. It's on the calendar, features a couple times, twice at the same circuit. So, but you know, that's mostly where they feature the circuit twice is where the fans are quite huge. You know, it's crazy. We get to Thailand and we get off the plane. We've probably been in transit for about 18 hours once you do all the airport stops at Singapore and stuff to Thailand. And then you have to get in a cab for 6 hours and drive to the middle of nowhere in Thailand. And it's probably an 8 or 9 hour drive if you drove sensibly, but you jump in the taxi with the Thai drivers and they're flooring it at 160 the whole way there. And you know, you get there and the city's nothing. It's tiny. There's nothing there to do. There's just no attraction to that city, which is crazy. But the track is one of the most amazing tracks you'll see in the world. Like the World Superbikes were there earlier this year. Wow. So they would have had to done the same course. There's no planes that go in there. It's all catching a cab 6 hours in. And they've got probably 100,000 chairs around that place. And every time it's full. And I really don't know how because the city is empty, it's dead. But every time we race there, that place just comes to light. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah, it's got a culture of you have to go to see these races.
Yeah, it's just the racing there just has a major boom.
Nice.
You know?
What city?
It's in Buriram actually. It's in the middle of Thailand. That's what it's called. I'd never heard of it before I went there.
Is the track kept better?
It's amazing.
Okay, obviously for the Superbikes to be there.
It was. I think they actually made this circuit only last year, so you know everything's brand new.
I see what you're saying. So it's one of these new sort of super sort of tracks.
Yep. So bitumen's perfect. Everything's tidy. You know, pits look perfect, immaculate condition. And for World Superbikes to be going there, you know, must be a pretty good scenery to be going to.
I went to Thailand for the first time 10 years ago.
Yep.
And I've only been there once. But I couldn't believe it. Opened my eyes like, wow, everyone rides an 80cc or 100cc scooter.
Yeah, they're
those little 125s. Yeah,
yeah, underbones.
Yeah, and they're all racing. I mean, you know, they've got a massive scene of scooter racing, and I say scooter, and you're in the actual industry, so this is probably wrong, but you know, isn't it amazing how different we are in Australia?
Yeah,
like, we've got to get to Brisbane every day, so we're in 100k four-wheel drives. We have to but only 6 hours north, say, in Indonesia, everyone's on bikes.
Yeah, and it's crazy, you know, like here we ride scooters and stuff, which are quite laid back normal bikes, but over there they actually don't have mopeds. They have these things called underbones, where they're sort of like a racy scooter. And if you go over to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, wherever it you be, every couple hundred meters on the side there's a stand for them and selling hot parts and all this. You go to Malaysia and they're drag racing them. Even a kid in my championship in the Asia Dream Cup, when he goes home to Philippines, he actually drag races them. And people bet on him, and that's how he makes his money. He's only 15 years old, and he's doing drag racing in the middle of the city. They all block it off. Yeah. Not anything to do with... It's not approved. It's illegal. But, you know, once the whole city comes together and do it, you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you see 100,000 of them riding around the town, and then there's even a class for it in our championship. It's called the Underbone 130s. So them things you see on the street, they actually race them. Right. And it's the most craziest racing you'll ever see. There's probably 30 of them on the grid, and I'd be surprised if 10 of them finished. Right. Just the amount of crashes and just crazy riding that they do. Right. But it's the most entertaining thing you'll ever get to watch.
Yeah, they're all in, what do you call it, slipstreaming, in trains.
Because they're so slow. It's a train along the whole track.
You know what I did once? It was the greatest thing. I felt like I was Casey Stoner after it. Was the 24-hour scooter race at Park. Was at Parklands. Le Mans, they call it?
Yeah, Le Mans, yeah.
Yeah, well, they call this Le Mans, which is a different word for small something. It's a French word for So Le Mans is big, Le Mans is tiny.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently. But 50cc race, 24 hours. Me and two other guys, Shannon Mudgee Wheel, whose son's Kyson Wheel.
Kyson.
Yeah,
Kyson,
okay, well, his dad.
Yeah,
You
we know them well.
Okay,
Yeah.